there's actually 4 stages of clinical trials. And that's 5 if you count phase 0, but we're not going to talk about that. So phase 1 trials are really the truly kind of highly experimental ones. These are typically treatments that have not been tried in humans before. They might have worked in mice or something, but often clinical trials that are phase 1 aren't really looking for response. They're not really looking to cure you. They're looking to see if you can tolerate the drug or the treatment. They just want to see, is this something that's incredibly toxic or not? And generally speaking, phase 1 clinical trials are reserved for people who really are out of all other options. And the people who enroll in clinical trials, phase 1 clinical trials, tend to be very altruistic. They know they're kind of at the end of their rope, and they would like to, take kind of a Hail Mary shot at something, and in the process, increase our knowledge about this disease process and whether or not it works. But that's not the goal of the phase 1 trial. It's really to see, is this something that's tolerable? Phase 2 clinical trials are generally not like comparative trials. At this point, you're looking for some kind of biological response, potentially, but again, it's not looking to see if it's better than another treatment. You're just looking for signs of activity. And they tend to be single-arm studies. So you take a group of patients in a particular disease state and you say, we're going to give them this drug or this treatment, and we just want to see if there's some signs of activity, whether or not it works. Phase 3 is really where most of the clinical trials activity is. These are the larger trials. They tend to be hundreds of patients, sometimes thousands of patients. And that's often where you will get comparative trials, where you take a standard of care and then you compare it to something else, or you compare it to, and in most trials nowadays are the standard of care plus something. So you're going to get everything that anybody would get if you just went and saw a doctor not outside of the clinical trial, plus some other drug that we think may have a biological rationale or has shown some clinical activity in the phase 2 levels. Typically, these treatments have to go from phase 1, 2 to before you get to 3. So there's some evidence by the time you get to a phase 3 trial that there's some activity there, that it's going to work. And then the question is, does it work better than what we're already doing? And that's why I think we've gotten a little further away from the placebo-controlled trials. The only time we really do placebo controls is when there isn't a whole lot else to offer. And so you're basically getting the standard of care because the standard of care is like, well, we're just going to watch you and kind of give you supportive care. If you're hurt, we're going to give you pain medicine and that kind of thing. And then there's actually phase 4 clinical trials, and that's actually after the FDA has approved them, and now you're really looking for very small changes that you can't really detect in a trial of 100 men or 500 men or even 1,000 men. So, for example, there was an antibiotic that came out that was supposed to be the world's greatest antibiotic when I was in medical school, and it got approved right away. It was kind of very similar to some other antibiotics that are still out on the market, like Cipro